and the TV?
Well, see, I'm not doing any of that. It's just that I've been sitting in my office for 12 hours a day working. So, I'm doing like yourself, like I'm doing multiple live streams a day and interviews and blog posts and everything. So, yeah, it's been interesting, but I feel like I've stayed busy enough during this time that I'm not falling behind, I suppose, where a lot of people are feeling the same way. So, I've kicked off the live stream. So we're live across 5 platforms. I'm hoping for 6 next week.
Christ.
But I've been self-teaching myself a lot of stuff. So I do Zoom through to Restream. Restream goes to 2 Facebook profiles, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter.
So if I say to somebody, did you see my live stream with Shawn? And they say no, I know they're lying.
Pretty much. But then I take that video and I take that audio and I turn it into a podcast and an article and a few other things. So it all works out for the best.
It's zero waste podcasting.
Yep, it's zero waste content creation. One piece. I just did a seminar yesterday actually on side hustles and showing people that you can take one video and turn it into 14 different things and put it over 5 different platforms. Opens up people's eyes a little bit.
That's impressive, man. Well done.
So let's kick it off. Like we've known each other for over a decade now. My story about you is still always awesome. The first time we met, literally the first time we met in the coffee shop on Ford Street. But for the people watching at home and listening, because I know a lot of people have been really interested in seeing a live stream with us too, why don't you introduce yourself and sort of give a background of what you do right now?
My name is Philip Duff. I'm an old bartender, and that means that I'm either a warning or an example. Time will tell. I'm from a little village just outside Dublin in Ireland. And at a young age, I fell in love with bartending and the glamour and the luxury and the elegance of it. And I was neither glamorous nor luxurious nor elegant as a young man. And I don't think I am now, but I found myself in those environments by dint of learning how to serve and make drinks, and especially cocktails and things. So after finishing high school and college in Ireland, I moved to London, to the bright lights, and got jobs in some great bars and some truly shitty ones. And then I worked briefly and illegally in New York, then back in London, and then even more briefly and much more legally in the Caribbean and the Cayman Islands. And then I was asked to go and help set up a chain of bars in Holland. And I thought, Holland. And I'll go, but just for 3 months. That wound up being 17 years living there. I learned the language, married my first wife, bought a house, started a bar. But then I got divorced. And in the meantime, I had given up full-time bartending because I'd been asked so often to do consulting on POS items, education programs, cocktail trends for the marketing teams, for the sales teams, for bartenders. So I became a full-time consultant somewhere around 1998, and I've been doing it ever since. I'm still an on-trade expertise consultant for most of the drinks companies in the world. And to prove that I put my money where my mouth is, a couple of years ago, I started my own liquor brand, Old Duff Genever. I am both the old and the Duff in Old Duff Genever. And currently, I've been staying inside my house for the last 6 weeks here in New York, which has really centered me. I have not been at home this long since the start of my second marriage 8 years ago. It's all going well. It's all fine.
Yeah, it's going well. So Elaine's putting up with you just fine.
Yeah, we're really lucky. I flew back from New Zealand on St. Patrick's Day. So my St. Patrick's Day actually lasted 42 hours. And since then, I have been outside in the last, 6 weeks, 5 times. And 4 of those times were to cross the street to the grocery store. And Elaine has only been outside twice. And that's what we think you should do. Whatever they're telling you, do more. Stay inside more. And this is New York City. Everything is delivered to your door. Every cocktail, every grocery, every bottle of booze. We have no reason to go outside, and we aren't.
I always say to Jill, the reason why Jill and I have been together for so long is that I work so much and I'm never at home. So if we, this has been the real great test, and it's worked out fantastically, me being home as much as I have been, because I got my basement downstairs. So in 1998, let's go back to when you changed over to consulting, because this is always one that I like to broach, because I think that every bartender as a side hustle or something that they want to sort of get into always has that, like, oh, I want to be a consultant, or I want to be a brand ambassador. And in 1998, there was no internet. Like, we really, if you were in a consultant in 19, like those 90s or late 90s, you were pretty much the factotum, because you're the one that had to go and find the books, do the research, compile the research. There was no internet at that time, where most bartenders gain their knowledge and education from these days. So how do you make that transition, even then, for you, in 1998, from being a bartender at a chain of places and becoming a consultant full time?
Well, it's easy. I cheated. Um, of course, as a bartender, you have skills, right? You're generally good at presenting. You're not afraid of talking to groups of people. You're used to managing the room, the group, whatever. But I had also, throughout high school and university, studied business, right? So I studied international marketing and French. That's my degree. So that meant I had an advantage, because all through high school and college, I had been bartending as well, in London, in Dublin, in Skerries, my hometown, in Dundalk, on the border between North and Southern Ireland. So I was a little bit of an unintentional unicorn, in that I was bilingual. I could speak marketing to brand managers, and I could speak bartending and bars and restaurants to bartenders and servers and managers and owners. And at the time, that was extremely rare. But, you've got to help fate a little bit. I had lived in London and bartended there right up until 1995, and you could see the cocktail revolution bubbling under. You could see bars opening here, slightly better drinks. It's like, ooh, this bar is making drinks with fresh lemon juice. And I could see that was going to be something. So after I moved to Holland, I stayed in touch. There was no internet, so I had to write a paper check and put it in an envelope and lick the envelope and put a stamp on it and mail it off to England and pay, I think it was £200 a year at that time, if not more, to subscribe to Class magazine, which is the great grandfather of Difford's Guide. But every month or whatever, couple of months, you'd get it and it'd be like, oh my God, every page is solid gold. Everything is a cocktail that's amazing, and nobody in New York or wherever, knows how to make them this well. So I invested in myself. And when I began to be asked by drinks companies, every bartender has had the experience of a brand manager coming in and saying, hey, can you come in and talk to my staff about cocktails or whatever? But I had something to tell them that they couldn't get anywhere else. They couldn't get that information anywhere else. And I was also able to talk to the staff of drinks companies and distribution companies literally in their own language. So, that helped, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
So you've been consulting for, you said Old Duff was about 2 years old now, 3 years old?
It's going to be 3 years old in September, if we make it that long. I don't mean me and the brand, I mean the whole world.
I'm always curious about this, because when I talked to Sven the other day, I had Sven Alming on the show, and same thing, consultancy. I think a lot of bartenders see consultancy as like the upper echelon, the pinnacle of what your career can take. Why take a massive risk from something that you're very, very good at and are well known for and all that sort of stuff, and I know you still do it, to put it, like, double down and put it all into a brand of your own?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as much of a risk, but obviously, as you get older, your appetite for risk decreases, but your expertise and network and contacts increase. So logically, as you get older, you should take more risks, not less. But just biologically, as humans, we become attuned to a world. You get a wife, a husband, a kid, a mortgage. You're like, oh, don't want to risk that. And I was actually thinking about doing something 4 or 5 years ago that I had also contemplated when I was in my early 20s, which was doing an MBA degree. right? I thought, oh, this would be great. And I love studying and I love business and I love learning new things. But I ran the numbers. An MBA would cost about $100,000, right? You need money to live on. You have to pay the tuition, all this stuff. And I thought, well, okay, good. But for less money than that, I could actually start my own brand and therefore give myself a one person, unique liquor industry craft spirits MBA by starting my own brand. And that's really what I did. So it wasn't cheap, it wasn't nothing, but it's out in the world now. And if it only has increased my profile as a consultant, which it has, it's already worth it. And we actually sell bottles now. We have companies and countries inquiring. There was a recent inquiry from Canada, actually. So in that sense, it's working. And it's also very enriching after years of being a bartender and a consultant to create a product you can actually hold in your own hands, a physical product. So,
but still, I know that you had a lot of positivity and really want to put your same behind. But like, to launch a brand is one thing. To launch something like Geneva, which is ridiculously misunderstood, is a whole different animal. Like Bowls Geneva is under the massive family brand of Bowls. Like, of course, that's gonna, even if it's just a trickle of a sales, it's gonna be fine. But to put all your weight behind a brand of liquor that is so misunderstood, so little information out there about it, I'd probably know the answer because I'm sort of very passion driven, but like, really, from a business point of view, like, how did you quantify that? How did you put that in your head and go, you know what, this is going to be fine, this is going to work? Were you always confident?
I'm always confident, but lots of people are confident who shouldn't be. Especially, it's 1 p.m. here, and we've started having lunch at 12 noon, so we can have our first martinis then. So I've had 2 small martinis and a glass of South African pinotage, so I'm even more confident now than I was 1 hour ago. But to answer your question seriously, the Chinese general Sun Tzu probably said it best thousands of years ago in his classic book, The Art of War, which might be one of the first business manuals. The army that chooses its battlefield will seldom lose. If I compete against Diageo or Pernod or Bacardi or Sazerac or anything like that, I am going to get my arse handed to me. They have money, expertise, staff, global reach, something I couldn't dream of. But if I shift the battleground to somewhere I can win and they can't, I've actually got a chance. So we're 2.5 years in with Old Duff Genever now. And if you are, one of the world's 50 best bars, one of the best cocktail bars in the world, for sure you've heard about it. If you are in New York, London, Holland, China, Singapore, Hong Kong, Thailand, New Zealand, you've probably got a bomb, right? We've achieved that in 2.5 years with nimbleness and agility. And because, we're adding a face to the brand. Lucas Balls has been dead for 400 years. I might not be looking very good lately, but I'm here, right? You can do a Zoom call with me. You can't do one with Lucas Balls or Johnny Walker, right? Or Tommy Dewar, but you can do it with me. So there's that. I mean, I could have launched a gin or a whiskey, but the competition there. I really believe, another marketing guru, Seth Godin, I really believe in his saying, no niche is too small if you own it. And I think we have a shot at owning the niche of real Dutch Genever, 100% milled, mashed, fermented, distilled, and bottled in Holland. Currently, in the export markets, there is no brand that is even close to Old Duff that can say that. So I'm very proud of that. It might not be a lot of sales, but it is a lot of transparency and authenticity, which, when the bars reopen, will continue to be one of the things that draws people in.
So you said that a lot of nimbleness, and that nimbleness is you. Like, it's not like you have a massive marketing team and brand team that are bouncing around and wearing old Duff t-shirts to bars and dropping cards off. Like when you say honest to goodness, transparency and nimbleness, it's really down to you. And as you said, you're not getting any younger. But how do you mesh being as positive, authentic, and real as you are to traveling? Like your travel schedule just before the lockdown sort of happened was insane. That 6 week trip was mental, which you can get into and sort of describe what that was like. But like, how do you wake up every morning and go, you know what, I've got to be as positive and authentic and straightforward as anybody after I just did a 12-hour flight from Singapore to New Zealand?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't believe in faking things, right? I don't believe in fake it till you make it. What I do believe is creating the best possible environment for yourself to be happy and healthy, right? So you got to, if you travel a lot, you got to force yourself to learn how to sleep on planes. There's no other way around it, right? You got to force yourself to work out a little every day, even if it's only 10 minutes. You got to force yourself to eat a little healthily. You got to force yourself to meditate for a couple of minutes, even if it's only 5 minutes every single day. And once you do all those things, it's not guaranteed you're going to feel like a shiny sunbeam, but you're tipping the odds in your favor. You're playing with every card in the deck, right? That's really important. You also need to have, a varied life. You need to have people at home that love you and care about you. It could be your husband, your wife, your child, your dog, your gecko. It doesn't really matter, but you need something to come home to. You need a life outside the industry. You need interests that are not driven to this, right? And then I think you probably need habits. You need to get up in the morning and make your bed, right? Because that's the first thing you can do perfectly every day. And if you make your bed, you're probably going to put on your workout clothes. And if you put on the clothes, you're probably going to work out. And if you work out, you're probably going to eat healthier. And if you eat healthier, you're going to sit down at your desk or go out on your day and work harder, right? I'm not here to be the next James Goggins or whatever, but these are things you do to tip the balance in your favor. And also, the thing is, the Geneva is very, very important to me, right? But I have a full-time job with my company, Liquid Solutions, advising drinks firms on education as well. And I can always point to Old Duff and say, look, I do it with this brand, which has no money, and it's in a stupid, crazy category that not only is not known, but it's mostly confused. So if I can do it there, I can probably help your mezcal or vodka or whiskey or gin or rum brand too. So, that makes me feel good that I can be honest with my clients. I've literally got skin in the game and they all like it. My clients actually love to introduce me as saying, oh, this is Philip Duff. He's this spirits and cocktail guy, and he also owns Old Duff Genever.
So what was your tour before you went into lockdown? What was your tour looking like?
I mean, it was the maddest tour ever. It was. So last year, I kind of came out of retirement. My retirement was I would only visit maybe 20 countries a year when traveling. Last year, I hit 43, which is mad. It's mad, right? But this year, obviously, if you're in the business of speaking at bar shows and doing seminars and stuff, the season tends to start again after a bit of downtime in January and February, at the end of February and March. And normally now it would be in full flow all the way through almost to Tales of the Cocktail in July. Then in August, it'd be a bit quiet again. It would start up in September. And what happened was I had a couple of different business trips that I had to do. And when I put them all down on paper, it didn't make sense to come home in between. I had to launch Old Duff Genever in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Thailand, and New Zealand. I had to go to participate in Old Duff Genever events at Amsterdam Cocktail Week. I was going to be trained by the government of Spain to be a sherry educator. Oh, and I had to do 2 weeks in London doing seminars and visiting bars for Pellini Limoncello and for the Pellini-owned Amaro brand, Ferrochina Belliva. So when I added it all up, I'm like, I've only got 4 days off here and there. I'm not going home. So it was a 7-week business trip that even though it was cut short, it was still 3.5 weeks long. It started in London and it ended in Wellington, New Zealand. And that would have been the longest business trip of my life. And it would have been fine. And I'm glad we got to do everything that we got to do. But I'm even more glad I was able to get home to New York before they closed the border, so that I'm broadcasting from here instead of from Hobbitland in Wellington.
So, so with quarantine and everything, I know that you're plugged into the New York bar scene quite heavily. What's the sort of obviously the change, but what's the sort of tone a lot of people are taking? What's people feeling about the future with the pandemic? What's the future of New York bars after all this?
Fuck, it's hard. There's a lot of economic stimulus in the US, but it's not going in the right places, at least not in my opinion. And the system is completely overwhelmed, right? You just cannot get through to unemployment. They've extended unemployment to self-employed people, even people like me. And you can call for 1 hour a day and you will not get through every single day for a month, right? The bars were already just hanging on. It's a not very well kept secret that apart from the occasional nomad and dead rabbit, the vast majority of globally famous cocktail bars you've ever heard of in New York, and I mean all of them, including the one you're thinking of right now, are just hanging on by their fingernails anyway. They're like marketing platforms for their owners and head bartenders to get jobs as consultants and, you know, speak at seminars and stuff like that. So this has been a real death knell for a lot of them. And of course, the vast majority don't own the building. They don't have any shares in the ownership. So many of them are trying to do delivery cocktails, takeout cocktails, just to keep the staff busy, just to keep a bit of cash coming in. Because even though they and their staff should be getting unemployment, many of them haven't received a dime. They haven't received a loan or a stimulus check or anything like that. There's been no relaxation of the requirement to pay rent or stuff like that over here. So people are positive, but they're just focusing on getting through today, tomorrow, the next day, and trying to ensure that there is something left when there is some way to get back into bars when all this blows over. Because at the moment, nobody knows anything.
Do you think, I've been talking to a lot of industry people up in associations and affiliations and lobbyists and all this sort of stuff. Do you think in the US, I know in Canada, that the government has no understanding of the hospitality industry and the impact that has on the economy as a whole?
I mean, look, it's really big. Hospitality in the US is $1 trillion industry, right? But if you are the government now, right, you have to perform triage. You have to give the most immediate aid to the companies and industries that are most likely to survive, right? So it might really fucking bite to see Boeing getting $100 million or something. I get it. But Boeing will survive. That mom and pop, you know, diner, deli, pub on the corner that was just scraping by anyway, it's really horrible to have to say it, but they're done, right? And the best scenario, the best example I can give is everybody watching this will remember in their country when the smoking ban kicked in. And everyone was like, oh, we can't do this. You know, the little places are going to go to the wall. Well, you know what? A lot of them were already bankrupt. Just nobody had told them, right? They were essentially zombie businesses. And unfortunately, that's what's going to happen here. The problem is the places that are not just mom and pops, places that were doing okay, right? They were making 5, 7, 8, 9, 10% net profit a year. They could pay their staff, stay open. They are a huge percentage of the industry, and they're not getting support right now, right? They are as big collectively as the Applebee's and, you know, Marriott's of this world, right? And they're not getting support they need, not here and not in most places, right? So the government has to manage the triage of, okay, we've to some degree looked after the Marriotts and the the Applebee's and whatnot of this world, we then need to make it trickle down, because a loan as small as $10,000 or $20,000 could enable a small independently owned bar to survive until July or August or something. But they're not getting that money.
How long do you think this is going to affect and really change the landscape of the industry for the next foreseeable future? What sort of time frame are you sort of planning all your stuff with brands? Because obviously you work closely with brands and bars, and everybody's got their own sort of, oh, we're going to be back at work June 1st, or we're going to be reopened July 1st. And everything will be back to normal 100%, the same as it was. What's your sort of forecast for that?
Yeah, I'm currently talking to all the companies that I work with or have worked with in the past to see how we can present a united front to rejuvenate the on-trade and the duty-free trade as well. Travel retail has also gone down the toilet. They say if you do something or don't do something for 3 weeks, you form or you break a habit. Well, everyone's been locked up for longer than that. So even if, supposing tomorrow they said, okay, New York, we're reopening all bars, no restrictions, people would think to themselves, oh, great, I'm going to run down to my local bar. But they will have formed a habit. It freaks them out to go in and to be less than 6 feet from other people. So I think the best case scenario is that within 12 months of now, bars will be at 80% of their capacity. And that's a little optimistic. I think 60% might be more sensible.
So hypothetically speaking, after COVID and everything's done, what's your big plans for this year on a career, personal level?
That's a really good question. As a brand owner, I want to support all the local distributors, whatever it is. If they want to pivot to online sales, e-commerce, delivery cocktails, that's what we're going to do. I want to keep doing what I've been doing for more than 20 years, which is delivering education and advice to bartenders. I don't know if that's going to be advice on switching careers or on operating their bars. If I could just distill together the expertise that's out there and give it to them so that they don't need to spend all the many hours of researching that I do every day, that will be enough for me. And if I can help the liquor brands and companies that are my clients continue to increase sales in whatever channel it is and increase goodwill, that will be a good thing.
Amazing. Well, I want to thank you for your time, buddy. I really appreciate it. I always love catching up with you, and it always seems that it's too soon and too small and not often enough. Say hi to Elaine for me. I got to get her on the live stream as well. I'm trying to do one live stream a day. Doing multiple live streams a day is just too much. One a day is plenty. Have a good day. Thanks so much for your time, Phil.
My pleasure, Shawn. Love to you and the girls. Stay safe, everybody. Wash those hands and don't forget your evening cocktail.
See you, buddy. Bye.
Cheers.